But that's a good, I guess, segue because so you have a new blog.
Yes.
Tell us what it's called.
Culturalreads.com.
Culturalreads.com.
Yeah.
And so you just mentioned a film that I would have never heard of before. This Italian one. What was it again?
The Great Beauty.
But no, in
La
Italian.
Grande Bellezza.
La Grande Bellezza.
I don't know if you say it like that because I only know
Oh,
Spanish.
yes, my Italian is perfecto.
La Grande Bellezza.
See, I would have never heard of that movie before.
Yeah.
And what I find difficult about the whole like foreign film thing, or let's say anything that's actually, you could classify as a cultural movie in that sense, like where you learn from it, is that there's so much out there that's supposed to be good that's actually kind of garbage. The stuff that maybe you were forced to watch in Spanish class in middle school, and then it ends up being terrible, or something that might be a classic, but if you're just, like what's the one, A West Side Story. A lot of people are going to crucify me for this, but come on, like A West Side Story is so old. It's tough to compare that to other stuff. So to have someone who can kind of like recommend something to you and tell you about it, give you a little bit of, pretext there before you even check it out, I find that super helpful. So how did you get this idea? Just tell us like what the blog is about and how you got the idea.
Yeah, no, good question. And so the blog just went live. Thus far, it's very basic, but the goal is to, put more info on there as we go. So I think it started from, I think in general, like I've always been interested in learning from different cultures because I have the feeling that, there's so many different countries in the world and different cultures and different habits and also different like themes or ways of thinking about things that you would normally not really be exposed to. So at some point, I don't remember when, like a couple of years ago, I came across this website that had a list with different books from different countries. And whenever, because before this, I was working for the Red Cross, and they would send me to different places to work. And what I started doing is whenever I would go to a country, I would go to a bookstore and then ask them for some recommendations of like books that were written by local authors. And it made me realize that and actually what I found best is to go when you're already in the country or when you already spent a bit of time there. So when you read a book, you actually recognize certain things in the book, like for example, artists or different sort of cultural habits.
Cultural relevant stuff that when they ask you about and you have no idea.
Yeah, exactly.
You look stupid.
Because when you try reading it before, like a lot of the references, you don't get them. But when you're there and you eat the food and they constantly reference to certain dishes, you're like, that's interesting because I actually ate this a couple of times and now I know why it's important. So what I started doing is just whenever I would go somewhere, buy one or two books from local authors, then read it like either when I'm in the country or when I came back, and it just made me realize, just made me understand obviously just a small part, but it just made me just created like a slightly better understanding of the culture and why people would do certain things, and often, a part of the history that shaped, the current society. So that was sort of initially what I did and what I really enjoyed. And I tried looking for more and more books from different countries. And then gradually that led to listening to music from, for example, a lot of Nigerian and Kenyan artists, and also South American because of the language, and it's a nice way to practice and actually learn a little bit more. And then eventually I kind of moved into movies as well, because they have a lot of art movie houses in the Netherlands where you can easily access all of these different movies. So at some point it just gave me the idea. Like I actually listen to a lot of music and watch a lot of movies and read books from different countries. And I, like you said, it's difficult in the beginning to find those artists because it's not something you hear on the radio. So that's when I started writing some of them down per country, and eventually came up with the idea to come up with a bigger list and ask people from different countries, like, what would you recommend? Like, if someone would visit your country, what are some of the artists or some of the the books that people have to check out?
Right.